All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Helm developer meeting for October 3rd. My name is Robert. This reading is recorded. It is a CNCF project and it is bound by the rules of code of conduct for the CNCF, and we shall get started. George, nice of you to join us. So we'll start off with announcements. Karen, you're up first.
Yeah, so this is kind of a repeat announcement from last week. Just a reminder, if anyone is around at KubeCon and available to help out, we have a Helm booth in the project pavilion. So that link should take you to a spreadsheet where you can sign up for shifts. And then once this gets finalized, I will send out calendar invites so that you don't forget what shift you have. So right now, I think we have at least one person for every slot. Ideally, we'd like to have two. And then a reminder that on that Thursday, that is when both of our sessions are. We have the Contrib Fest session and then also the maintainer talk. So some of our maintainers will be busy with those talks on Thursday afternoon. I will probably just drop this on the agenda again next week, probably every week leading up to KubeCon to remind people until we fill it out. But that's it.
That's a great idea. I signed up personally, so I'm covering one of Thursday to cover some of the when the maintainers are out. Farina, the floor is yours. You got a few things today, so the floor is yours.
All right, thanks. So the first two I got here are first, we have a new Helm maintainer voted in as of this morning. Robert, welcome. Now I'll have to onboard you, and more problems are your responsibility.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, and my condolences.
Oh, stop. It's not that bad. Don't make it sound like that. It's great. It's great to be here.
No, thank you for all the work that you've put in that got you here.
Appreciate it. All right. Next, CDN.
Yes, so get.helm.sh runs off of a CDN backed by an object storage bucket. And we moved to a new CDN because the old one, well, it cost a bunch of money. And of course, everything we do is sponsored and has costs involved. And so we moved to the new CDN. The shift happened this week. I still got a few things to tear down. We moved from the Azure Edge IO CDN over to their front door CDN. So it's all within Azure because Microsoft's the one who sponsors all this stuff. And so it's Microsoft money going back into Microsoft services. And so we did make that move. If anybody sees anything funny, please let me know. But otherwise, the move is complete, except for tearing down the old services, which are there just in case we run into a problem in the next few days and we need to switch back. But if we don't hear any complaints, we'll just tear down all the old services.
Awesome.
And they're paid per
you.
use, so that shouldn't cost us. But it's going to cost us about 1/3 the amount per month, which is a nice cost savings.
Awesome. All right. We're done with announcements. Let's move on to discussions. This one is Emery. Is Emery on? Emery is not on. This is pull request 13098. I will put that into the chat here. Bring it up. I think he's looking for feedback from our maintainer core.
Yes, and I have not looked at this one in a while. We need a second maintainer on it, but this is one of those things where the last pull request, the last time I reviewed it, it didn't work because of just the way we record statuses and things stepping on each other. And I have not looked at it since then to see if the suggestions were there. I've got to dig back into it. Sorry. There's just been other issues going on, and I haven't had a chance.
George, do you have any cycles to take a gander at this 13098?
Yeah, I can take a look.
Awesome, sir. Very
It's
Matt.
not logic that I'm sorry, I was gonna say it's not logic that I'm super familiar with. But I'll do my best to try and raise any questions that I see.
Yeah.
So I still probably won't approve it necessarily myself.
Yeah, take a little bit of time and start stepping through the code, because you're going to find as you walk through the code and some of the nested code, some things happening there. It's a useful place to learn.
Awesome.
And I had to do that because it's been so long since I looked at it. When I went to go review it, I'm like, oh, but I had to go do that same walking exercise.
All right, Matt F, a cherry pick bot. Go
All
ahead.
right. So I have been looking, instituting branch protection rules around the Helm repository. And one of the things that we've been going with the Open SSF scorecard, they want branch protection rules around release branches, which is a darn good idea. Our release cutting, the way that it was set up 5 years ago, something like that, was somebody manually cherry picks the commits over to the release branches and pushes it. Well, there's more automated ways to do it, make sure tests are passing, things like that. And that doesn't work with most branch protection rules because you're going to lock down pushing to these release branches. And we've actually run into problems in the past where people cherry pick things and even cut a tag, but forgot to push to the branch. And then the next person who wants to go do another tag doesn't have the code on the branch to do it, and they're chasing people around. One time it happened when someone was on vacation who pushed the last one. It's been several years since that happened. But there's just places where you can get into a bad place. It's much better if we could do this all up there and institute branch protection around it. So I was looking at cherry picking tools that let us create pull requests. And this is one that I found that some other projects use, like Core DNS uses, and it's put on by Google. So it's GCP is the one who maintains this, and Google hosts it, and other CNCF projects like Core DNS use it already. And it lets you, via a comment, specify, hey, over on cherry pick this over to this particular branch, and you put in the branch name. And so this seemed like a good, useful one from a trusted source that we could loop in to start doing this kind of effort. And I was wondering if anybody had any feedback, thoughts, or other tools that they would suggest.
I have no other tools to suggest, but I like the idea of locking down release branches. And if this is trusted amongst other CNCF projects, I don't know why we wouldn't trust it if others are putting their faith into it.
Yeah, I have exactly the same thoughts as Robert. I don't know of anything offhand. I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
George came on camera, so I'm sure he's got some insights. Please, George Castro, the floor is yours.
I do not know enough about your release process to make a recommendation, but Google also has a tool called Release Please. That's an action that helps you automate the publishing of release notes and all of that stuff. Might or might not be useful for you, but it's lightweight.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Is it
The
release?
release, please.
Release dash please. Yeah, it's a
Please,
GitHub
okay.
action. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the chat there for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, George.
Thank you, George. I'll take a look at it.
All right, Matt, you're busy today. So next, Helm website refresh review.
All right. So the Helm website has not gotten love in a long time. It was designed quite a long time ago. And at George's recommendation, the Linux Foundation, the CNCF, does offer some services around documentation, websites, things like that. And so I put it out and submitted for a review to have them review it. I'm meeting with somebody next Monday to kick that process off, and we're going to get them to look at the website. And one of the things that comes to mind for me anyway is there's lots of PRs around translations. And right now, all translation stuff is handled manually, which means anytime you update a document, all the translations need to be updated. And of course, if you're like me, you can't read all those translations to even verify. So you're getting a translation tool out and trying to verify. Hopefully they've got better ways of handling some of this. But it's also been a long time, and there may be better ways for us to handle this, and the Linux Foundation may be able to help us. So we've kicked off a review process, and I was wondering if anybody had any feedback that they wanted to give me before I talk with them, or any ideas or thoughts or anything around it.
Me personally, no feedback, but if you need assistance in implementing something new, but on the websites, I've done it before, so I'm volunteering to jump in and assist.
Okay.
I don't want to sound like I'm jumping on the hype wagon, but AI is actually extraordinarily good at translating languages. That's one of the things which you can stick it into production and rely on it to do reliably. I don't know if there's any AI translation thing out there for documentation, but that would be cool if there was.
Yep. And that's one of the things I'm going to ask them about, because that would make a lot of this stuff easier.
I guess no one has anything else on the website. Matt, Helm security list.
Yeah, definitely. So the Helm security list, let me see if I've got it pulled up here, has a bunch of people on it who are, well, not active maintainers anymore. And let me pull up the list. And so we need to revisit this list and get some people off and get some new members on it. I'll drop it into chat here.
Okay.
Current list, if I can. There it is. Here's the current list. And we need to go revisit this because Adam is not around anymore. Mr. Fisher is not around anymore. And neither is Nikhil. And so, and Josh is, I mean, he's a Helm maintainer and he's involved in Chart Museum, things like that, which occasionally has issues. And so this can be across the org. So if we have another maintainer, because you can only be on it who's a maintainer, if we have another maintainer who's interested in joining this list to help troubleshoot some of this stuff, please let me know, because we need to go through with cleaning this up here in the short term.
You can definitely add myself. I haven't created a PGP key for about 20 years. I can do, I guess. Looks necessary.
Yep. So PGP keys are needed for this. And also we PGP sign the Helm releases. And so it's needed for signing Helm releases. So
Okay.
there's those two things. But yeah, we do this to offer up people who want to send us a report in a way that's encrypted through email traffic and all of that stuff, so nobody else can read it. And so that's why we offer up PGP keys.
Okay. All right. Next on the list, George.
So if you open that PR, this is way back to, we've already discussed this maybe twice already. This is the adding gateway API to Helm Create. The reason I re-raise this is the gateway API maintainer there is pointing out this is an official part of Kubernetes. It's just not a core. It's not going to be distributed as it's like an optional add-on, which is official, which is, to my knowledge, a new scenario, or at least it's a new scenario for something which is likely to become popular over time. So the questions that come to mind, and I'm sure there's more, is like Helm and external APIs, like it can't validate manifests for objects against things it doesn't know about the schema for. So beyond just the initial discussion of adding this to Helm Create, there's probably if this is going to be a common pattern in the future, then we should probably start to think about how we may handle out of tree APIs in the future, which wouldn't just be beneficial for official APIs, but anything which is delivered by a custom resource.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's in a chart, right, and it's a non-custom, I mean, Helm talks to the particular Kubernetes cluster. It can get its schema. It's actually all the way under the hood. It's Kubernetes Go packages that do the validation, all of that stuff, and it's based on the data it gets from the legitimate cluster. And so that all handles. This is really about Helm Create, which is where we stub out a very basic first chart for somebody. And it's not meant to have every resource and everything in the world. It's meant to show you how to create a chart. And really the default is just an Nginx chart. And we just use Kubernetes primitives for that. I mean, Helm Create actually has the ability to pass in starters. Now, the starter system can probably be a lot more robust. Right now, you just have to pass in a location on your file system, and it can stub out a chart based on a different starter other than the included Nginx one. So the real question is here, does using the gateway API from Kubernetes make sense? Because this whole thing shouldn't be a dumping ground for everything under the sun. It's just how do you step out a basic chart with good patterns that shows somebody how to do it? And I mean, is the gateway API GA yet?
I believe it is now. It may not have been last time we brought this up, but I believe it has moved to GA at this point.
Okay. Yeah, because part of the problem before was a non-GA API was one of the things that, we were waiting on just to make sure. If it is GA now, and it could be in Kubernetes where somebody wants to use it instead, it's a topic we could entertain. I haven't looked at the pull request though to dig through it.
So are you sure? My understanding of so say if you do Helm templates, or at least every time I've validated output of a Helm chart, it's been Helm template, pipe to kubectl apply, dry run server.
So Helm template by default does not connect to an outside server, because if you're doing Helm template and you happen to have a kube config set up, you could accidentally talk to the wrong server. You could leak information, things like that. There's a security posture there, in addition to getting the wrong versions. So Helm template does not reach out. There is now a flag on Helm template that you can use to let it connect to the server if you want to get that information, and then it validates it because it grabs the Open API schema and all of that. We added it a few minor versions ago.
That flag just allows lookup to work. We should add the support for additional things, unless I'm mistaken. But there's probably a little aside from the topic here.
You're right. I'd have to look at it. You're right. It did work for lookup. But yeah, the idea was with Helmnet. What's a lot better to use, which will contact the server, is use Helm install or Helm upgrade with the what's the flag? I'm forgetting it. It's the dry run flag, because then it will do the lookups and it will test everything, but it does it in a dry run mode where it does not install it or do the upgrade, but it tests it and it can query the server for everything.
Maybe I'm misremembering, because Helm template is Helm install with with dry run set. But I think it does things slightly differently. I'm just trying to remember the details now. Okay, so
very much so.
Let me think. So if we're happy with the way that Helm will handle out of tree or custom resources for these scenarios, then I think there's probably no concern there. Then it would just be back to the original question on this PR is like, do we want Helm create to support gateway API? Do we think it's core enough? My position would be yes, but that's obviously only my opinion. Everybody else needs to opine here.
Yeah, and I have to look more into it because I haven't played with the Gateway API in a while. I haven't looked at its status and where it's at and what's going on to make a decision for myself yet. So I'd have to go look at it. I can add it to the to-do list, but it's a long to-do list.
Fair enough. Yeah, my position is Gateway API is designed to replace, in a supersede sense, Ingress. And the position for Helm should, I think, be to promote best practices, which would be to move from Ingress to Gateway API.
Yeah, and I've heard concerns there, so I've got to go dig into those concerns because Ingress works really well for like an application operator. The Gateway APIs, the application operators, when I read about it, were not so happy with it. It was more infrastructure thinking. So I need to go poke at that again to see about target audiences and users, things like that, to see how it's really going. These grand ideas are great. How is it actually working?
I'll send you a link because I know explicitly there's the Gateway API does cover this scenario. So I'll send you a link in Slack and I'll stick it in once I dig it up in the notes for everybody else.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Have about 8 minutes left, so let's continue. Anything for HIP review? There's nothing on the list. Okay. Shoutouts. Does anyone have anything? Social media amplification. All right, so let's do some assignments for next call. Do we have someone for moderator?
Maybe 1 second.
Oh, so sorry,
maybe it's the right time to jump in. So wasn't sure like where it would fit on the agenda, but I wanted to quickly introduce myself. So I'm Magnus, working at Microsoft as a software engineer, located in Berlin, and yeah, in the Azure Core Linux team, and we deal with a lot of upstream container technology projects. And our team has been approached and asked whether we could spend some resources on Helm specifically. Yeah, so this is me. Yeah, I've been involved in confidential container CNCF projects the last couple of years. So I think roughly the processes are comparable, I think. Just looking at, like how you discuss the agenda and everything. But obviously it's two very different layers. Yeah, so confidential containers was very deep kata security stuff. And yeah, so what I probably will do, I will lurk around in the Slack channels and probably ask a lot of questions and try to see like where we are in terms of issues, etc. So, and try to understand like where we could help out in the most productive fashion. And if you have ideas like where's some places which are great for onboarding or which are like, could be a good starting point, I'd be really happy to get pointers.
I believe, I think we're still working on that kickoff and startup guide. I've taken a bunch of notes over the past couple months and working with this, so it'd be something I'd be more than happy to reach out and on the Slack channel schedule some time, and we can get you kind of ramped up of areas where I got started and where you can kind of jump in. There's always PRs, there's always issues to kind of look at. So obviously getting your hands dirty and getting familiar with the code base is probably first and foremost, and then would love to assist you in any way we can.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'll also jump in. It's a good time now to learn about it because we're looking at kicking off a Helm version 4, where we go and make, some breaking changes to Helm, not so much to the experience, more to the code base, more than anything. We've got lots of APIs and things like that, I mean, they've aged. And so we're looking to clean some of that stuff up. And so, it's good to know that even before we get going in that, but we'll probably kick that off in the near future.
Awesome. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for the offer. Appreciate it. Any and all help, of course. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ping me in Slack as well.
Great, will do.
All right. That being said, I want to be respectful of people's time. We have 4 minutes left. Assignments for our next call. We need a moderator who is up for it.
I can moderate.
All right, George is on deck. Notes. I can take notes if no one else will. Issue triage. Put myself down, Robert, and anybody else for issue triage?
I'll do some. I can always do a couple when I get on the train in the morning, normally.
I can do some too. And I'm going to do PR reviews as well.
Likewise.
Yep, same here, ditto.
Yeah, I'll do to the list as well.
All right, thanks, Evans. And for next meeting, who is going to be present from our core maintainer group?
I guess I can say that I will be now.
I'll be there.
Probably, yeah.
All right. I'm always here because I have nothing. I don't have a life. I'll say that on a recording. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Zach, Magnus, thank you for coming and joining and assisting and offering the help. We do appreciate it, and we'll see everybody next week.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, George.
Bye.
Thank you. Ciao.